What's going on, everybody? I'm Kevin from Cigar Prop, and it is another Drew Estate Tabak and Tech Tip Sunday, powered by Monster Energy Rehab. Such a delicious combination. All right. So in the past, we've talked about used cars, buying used cars, having them inspected. That's not what this tech tip is going to be about. So I had a friend of mine bring a car into the shop this week for a vehicle inspection, to look over everything and to see if the car was worth what they were asking for it. And that's never my determination of when someone asks me to inspect a car. I can only give them a list and then take this for what it's worth, and you can make the decision on your own. So the only thing I did find, which we won't, that's the only thing we talk about mechanically. Everything was nice and clean, a little 4-cylinder car. The one thing, there was a little staining down the back of the motor, like there used to be a valve cover gasket leak. Did not appear to be a new valve cover gasket on there. We can tell. Popped out one of the spark plug tubes. Or coil pack tubes. I still call them spark plug tubes. And there was oil inside the hole. So someone just cleaned the motor really well. And then there was still oil inside the tube seal, or getting past the tube seal. So, one thing I noted, the perks of having the vehicle properly inspected by a technician is we find little things like that. My beard is caught on my microphone. There we go. So one thing I did, and which I don't do often, or it's actually rare, is I actually went through the interior of the vehicle, because it was a friend of ours. We don't do interior like inspections and things like that, but it was a friend. So the one thing I did, and only because I'm having the issue with my car, this heat in Florida has killed us this summer. My multifunction display, the radio, I've got some spots on it that are now dead, and it's because of the heat. And so it's one thing, I sat in the driver's seat, played with all the buttons, made sure all the buttons work. Like every button, like there was a light on where it needed to be on, and I touched the radio, and the radio was dead in a couple of spots. And so wrote that down, and next thing, get in the back seat. And these are things that you should be doing when purchasing a used vehicle, because what do we all do? I've done it. Purchase a new vehicle. You sit in the driver's seat and put your hands on the steering wheel. You look around. You look in the back seat. And you're like, yeah, man, everything. You ever sit in the back seat? No, I never had. This one, I sat in the back seat. Just kind of looked around, as a passenger would, just to see if there's any rips, tears, anything out of the ordinary. Happened to look down on the center console, similar to mine, similar to a lot of you, charging ports. And I'm just like, I'll just check that out. Went and grabbed my cord from my toolbox and plugged in, and from my phone, charging port didn't work. Could be a bad fuse, something as simple as that. A lot of times people will plug in these cheap chargers and cables from gas stations, and they're not really good. They leave them plugged in all the time. The cords are dangling. The resistance, all that, electrical jargon, it'll actually blow fuses. Buy proper iPhone, Samsung, whatever device you have, buy proper cords or highly rated cords. Don't buy this stuff from the gas stations. They don't work. Problem is they will work, and then they'll just fry stuff out. So, notice that didn't work. Everything else looked pretty good. Went to the back of the vehicle. And then notice it had a little hatchback car, and it had like these slots, and it's supposed to be where you have like this tonneau cover that kind of pulls out and retracts, but that was missing. It was a used car, but it's something I notated. I'm like, hey, like I said, that little thing that's supposed to fold or pull back is missing. He didn't notice it because he wouldn't. I noticed it because I had, not the same car, but the same, I recognized like these little grooves that would fit into, and you pull it out and you lock it in place. I had one at one time, and that's why I noticed that was missing. Pop the, like the little deck lid, where the spare tire is at. Everything looked pretty good. but the little case, the jack was there. It was like in this little styrofoam thing, and it was all nice. But the case was missing. That had the lug nut wrench that was missing. So, those are things that you may not notice, even if you inspect it yourself. But have you ever thought to even look? Whether I can't tell you how many times a lot of new cars do not come with spare tires, and then I can't tell you how many used cars get towed in, and because of a flat tire. And the customer's like, I've had this car for 2 years, never knew, didn't have a spare. And they're like, but it's there. The little wing nut thing is there. It's supposed to have a spare tire, but it didn't come with one because they didn't check it. And on a vehicle inspection, when you bring it into a place, it wouldn't have been caught either. Because the majority of the time, they don't do interior inspections. We have a checklist, all mechanical things, and then none of that includes interior. So that would be my tech tip this week. If you're looking for a used car, even if you have a new car, say you're not in the mood or in the market for a used car. When's the last time on your new car or your used car, if you've had it for a year or two, that you've sat in the back seat and just kind of looked around and see, maybe bounce around? Is a seat loose? I mean, that does happen. Is something, do you notice something's broken that should be fixed? We talk about this all the time, that, you'll take your car somewhere and you get this big, long laundry list of things that need to be done to your car. And if you'd have just done them little bits at a time, they wouldn't get all backed up like this. So yeah, look for, do you know if you have a spare? Like I said, a lot of new cars don't have spare tires, and people don't know that. They're just under the assumption that they have a spare. And then there are times where the spare tire is the well is there, but you didn't choose that option when you bought your new car, is to add a spare tire. Sometimes there's not even a wheel well there. People are like, can I buy a spare and put it back there? You don't have a spot for a spare. They don't even make one. You got like that little pump, that injects tire sealant. Get to know how that works. So when you're stranded one day, then you're trying to figure out how this pump works, and it's always when something breaks, it's just at the least opportune time. And then now you're frustrated, maybe you're late for work, you're trying to figure out how this works. If you get accustomed to it now, read your owner's manual, how that little pump works. When that time happens, you'll be, at least like, oh, hey, I kind of remember reading about this one day, so you kind of know how it works. But if you're in the market for a used car, or if someone asks you, hey, can you go look at this car with me? Sit in that back seat. Sit in the passenger seat. Make sure if it's got, power seats, make sure they move. If it's got the lumbar, make sure you hit that lumbar and you feel it coming up. And make sure every part of the radio, go through the settings and make sure everything is working. Buttons on the steering wheel, make sure they're working. Radio volume up and down, cruise controls working. Make sure buttons, most buttons have lights that turn on and off. Make sure all of that works. In this day and age, if you have that laundry list and you go back to that private seller, that dealer, hey, I had this inspected, and make sure you do it. Don't let the guy go with you for a drive, or a guy or gal. Go by yourself, or if they won't, like, hey, let me take this to the corner of the lot. I'm gonna spend a half hour. I'm not gonna go on the lot. I'm gonna go over this vehicle. Just give me some space. If they're pressuring you, looking over your shoulder, go somewhere else. But just hit all the buttons, touch everything, make sure everything's working, air conditioning. And then also do make sure you bring it in your local Tires Plus, Firestone Complete Auto Care, Hibden Tires Plus, or Wheel Works if you're out west. And then let us go through all the mechanical parts of the car that you can't, you probably don't have the knowledge to catch up on the little things like a spark plug tube full of oil. So, all right, everybody, it's been another True Estate Tobacco and Tech Tip Sunday. We'll see you next week.